They say gold once flowed like water here, in a city where the sand whispered secrets and the manuscripts spoke of galaxies, philosophy, and forgotten empires. A place so mythical to medieval Europeans, they doubted it could be real Timbuktu, but it was, and it still is. Long before Europe stirred from the slumber of the Dark Ages, deep in the golden heart of West Africa, a city emerged that would rival the intellectual centers of Alexandria and Baghdad. Hidden on the edge of the vast and punishing Sahara, Timbuktu wasn't supposed to exist, but it defied the desert, the doubters, and time itself. It began not with an empire, but with water, the lifeblood of the Niger River. Around the 12th century, nomadic Tuareg traders established a seasonal settlement near a well-strategic crossroads where Saharan salt caravans met West African gold routes. They called it Tin. The place of Buktu, named after a wise old woman who guarded the areas well. What began as a dusty outpost soon caught the eye of the greatest West African empire the world would ever know, Mali. By the early 14th century, under the reign of Mansa Musa, the name Timbuktu exploded onto the world stage. Musa, a devout Muslim and one of the richest men to have ever lived, was not just a king. He was a force of history. In 1324, his pilgrimage to Mecca turned heads across the Islamic world and Europe. With thousands of attendants and camels bearing literal tons of gold, Musa's legendary Hajj bankrupted markets from Cairo to Medina. But what he returned with was even more valuable than gold: scholars, architects, books, and a vision for a kingdom built not just on wealth, but on wisdom. Timbuktu was the crown jewel of that vision. By the time Musa commissioned architects like Abu Ishaq al-Sahili to build mosques and learning centers, the city had begun transforming into an African Alexandria. The Jinga Mosque, still standing today, was constructed in 1327 using mud wood and traditional Sahelian techniques, its minarets spiking into the blistering blue sky like fingers pointing toward heaven. But its beauty lay not just in its architecture, but in what it contained, a sanctuary of thought, debate, and scripture. Here, scholars gathered at Sanko University, one of the world's oldest degree-awarding institutions, to study everything from astronomy and law to medicine, theology, and mathematics. The libraries of Timbuktu became vessels of an intellectual tradition that few in the modern world associate with Africa. More than 700,000 manuscripts, some dating back to the 11th century, were written in Arabic and Ajami, covering everything from astronomy to romantic poetry. In the words of the 16th century traveler Leo Africanus, who journeyed across the Sahara to witness the wonders of this city, there are many doctors, judges, priests, and other learned men that are bountifully maintained at the king's expense. He was astonished that books were valued more than gold. In the bustling markets of Timbuktu, manuscripts were bartered and sold like prized treasures, a currency of thought in an age obsessed with conquest. But Timbuktu's golden glow could not remain untouched forever. By the late 16th century, the Songhai Empire, which had eclipsed Mali, ruled Timbuktu. Yet in 1591, the Moroccan invasion led by Sultan Ahmad al-Mansur would shatter this peace. His well-armed troops, using European firearms, swept across the desert and seized the city. Timbuktu's scholars were exiled, its institutions fractured, and the city slowly faded into silence. Still, even as its power waned, its legend grew. In the minds of European cartographers and explorers, Timbuktu transformed from a real place into a mythical one. Early Renaissance maps depicted it as a city of impossible wealth, a golden utopia surrounded by deathless sands. Explorers like, driven by dreams of glory and funded by colonial ambition, risked everything to find this elusive city. Succeeded in 1828, disguising himself as a Muslim traveler to infiltrate the city. What he found was not the opulence he'd imagined, but a fading city, its manuscripts still revered, its people still proud, but its golden age long past. Yet Timbuktu had not disappeared, it merely hid in plain sight. In the 21st century, Timbuktu's greatest treasures still endure, not in its palaces or monuments, but in its manuscripts. Thousands have been smuggled out, hidden, or restored by brave Malian citizens and librarians during times of crisis. when jihadist rebels swept through the region in 2012, intent on burning libraries and silencing memory. Citizens risked their lives to protect the books. In dusty boxes, under beds and floorboards, the soul of Timbuktu was kept alive. The story of this city is a story of resilience, of intellect over empire, of memory over myth. It forces us to confront the falsehood that Africa was once a continent without books, without universities, without high culture. Timbuktu stands as irrefutable evidence to the contrary. Today, UNESCO and global scholars continue the fight to preserve its ancient texts, fragile testaments written in ink and spirit, weathered by time but unbroken. These manuscripts challenge Western narratives and reclaim Africa's place in the grand arc of human history. They whisper forgotten truths, that Africans debated theology, charted stars, prescribed medicine, and asked questions about the nature of God and existence centuries before the Enlightenment reached Europe. But one question remains: how many more cities like Timbuktu have been buried beneath sand and silence? What other stories of genius, faith, and forgotten power wait to be unearthed from the folds of African history? Perhaps somewhere in the Sahel or beyond lies another city, a new Timbuktu, waiting for the world to listen. If this story moved you, imagine how many more lie just off the map. Like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. What lost African or Asian history would you like us to uncover next? This is History Off the Map, where the forgotten becomes unforgettable.